Wow, you're more than 300 people watching this. It genuinely fills me with hope that travel is changing, but I must admit, it also gave me a bit of a stage fright as I was about to log on to the call, and I don't think the counter actually did anything positive to my nerves. Anyways, I can see from the list of attendees that I'm in very good company, so I've been looking very much forward to this. A warm welcome to you all. For those of you I've never met, just a quick introduction to myself. I started my career in sustainability some 20 years ago. In 2003, around 2003, when I was studying my bachelor's in philosophy and business, I grew a profound interest in the role of business in society. I remember watching this movie that I found yesterday at home, The Corporation, that challenges and reflects on the role of business and its purpose and responsibility. So fast forward to 2021, it's happening. Businesses are increasingly taking action, wanting to solve problems rather than just generating profit, and it's about time. If we zoom in on Goodwings, in 2015, my co-founder and I started Goodwings, and I remember running into a former executive from one of the largest travel companies in the world, and we started to talk about the need for a more sustainable way of traveling. So his response was crystal clear. People are not going to pay extra to travel sustainable. So that really became the beginning of our mission to change travel. The problem was, the guy was right. The aggregators, the price comparison websites have commoditized this entire industry, and the only thing that one looks for is to get that lowest possible price. So the task at hand really was to be as competitive as the major platforms, but at the same time, turn online travel into a force for good. So we started to dig into it, and we soon realized that online travel platforms aren't really travel companies. They don't own airlines, hotel chains, rental car companies. They're just the intermediaries, like Goodwings is. So basically what they are is marketing machines. If you pile it all together, every year they spend more than $40 billion on advertising. Something that creates very little value to society, to the fight against climate change, or to any of us, the clients. So basically, we decided to build a platform that could offer the same 1 million hotels and prices, same price levels, but instead of spending money on Facebook, Google, TV ads, we would funnel that money to projects supporting the 17 global goals. For us, it sounded obvious and easy, and I guess you're probably wondering and thinking the same. I can tell you it wasn't. It took us 4.5 years and $5 million until we finally got it right, and it started to work for us. We had businesses signing up for our service from more than 30 countries. And then came COVID. So within 1 week, we went from 6 months of consecutive growth, roughly 15 to 20% growth month on month, to almost nothing. We lost 98% of our volume in just a few days. So that was obviously a big, big blow to me, my team, our investors, but we never lost hope in the business model as such, funneling money from advertising to projects, improving the lives of people and protecting the planet. And luckily, our amazing investors kept believing in our mission and our team. So I'll share with you what we did. After a week or so of re-energizing and reorienting ourselves, we basically spent 3 months of looking inwards, talking to clients, understanding our role, or re-understanding, re-investigating our role in society. And we basically were on the phone, talking to clients, to existing clients, emailing with them. This was in April, May, June of 2020. And basically we asked them one question: how do you perceive Goodwings? What is, in your words, our role? How do we create value to you? And they all said one thing consistently, and that was, we like what you do, And we appreciate the opportunity to be able to support projects supporting the achievement of the 17 global goals without having to pay for it, at least pay any extra. Of course, they needed to book the hotels with us, but it's not really business critical. And we were amazed. For us, it was immensely business critical and purposeful to be able to support, a wide variety of amazing projects in 40-some countries. They said, well, one thing that is increasingly important in our business and ties very well into the core strategy of our business is climate and our climate concerns. So if you can come through this COVID crisis and enable us post-COVID to travel in a way which is more in alignment with our climate concerns, then you're onto something. So having worked personally in sustainability areas for 20 years, from human rights, labor rights, health and safety, and many other things, I wouldn't consider myself a climate expert. I still wouldn't. So obviously we needed to ally ourselves with people who were experts in this area. So in the summer of 2020, I reached out to a handful of people that I admire a lot and who are amongst the most knowledgeable in this space of climate and climate solutions. And I said, well, how would you like to come on board on Goodwings and help us come through and invent Goodwings 2.0? And they all said yes. So in the second half of 2020, working closely with our advisory board, we came up with the new direction of Goodwings and the net zero travel service. We launched it in January, and these first few months have been utterly crazy. For 3 months now, January, February, March, we have more than doubled the amount of companies signing up compared to pre-COVID. So even though we're still in a very strange time, and I'm sure that goes for you too, we can see that we're tapping into something that creates a lot of meaning and value to travelers and to business leaders around the world. So I'd love to share with you this new concept, and to do that in the best way, I'm going to share with you a few slides, and then I'll get back to you afterwards. So I'll just see if I can share my screen without doing anything wrong. Otherwise, I'll get my team after me. So, hang on just 1 second and I'll be ready. So basically, the fundamental business model and vision is still the same. It still is to disrupt the way you build your brand and the way that you acquire clients, and spend much less on advertising, and instead use that money to do something that actually brings us forward and closer to the achievement of the 17 global goals. And we call it net zero travel. What we want to do, and what we are doing now, is enabling businesses to travel with net zero carbon footprint. So when we use the term net zero travel, let me put a few words to that. These days, you can't open a newspaper or go on LinkedIn without coming across something related to carbon offsetting. So basically, if you look at carbon offsetting, it really covers two things: avoidances, where you help someone else avoid emitting more CO2. That could be a climate credit associated with a windmill or solar plant or something else, where you're not removing carbon from the atmosphere, but you're financing, you're supporting the transition towards renewables. Super important. I think it was increasingly important 5-10 years ago, because we needed to add another revenue stream to those projects so they would be more financially viable. In the last couple of years, the last 2 years especially, it's now changing, and in more and more countries around the world, it actually makes more sense financially to create a new energy plant based on renewables as opposed to, for instance, coal. So what we need to do increasingly is to remove carbon from the atmosphere. And basically, if you look at all the carbon credits out there, only 5 to 10% are projects that are removing carbon. The rest is associated with avoidances. We focus solely on removals. So when we say net zero travel, what it means is that we calculate how much CO2 are you pumping out with your business trip from your flight, hotel, transfer, meal, and we remove that same amount, so your net result is zero. We haven't invented an airplane that runs on battery or hydrogen, but we're doing everything we can to mitigate climate change. So we're still a hotel booking platform. So the only small change you need to make as a company is to decide, well, from now on, we will consistently book all our hotels for business travel on Goodwings. That will enable us to calculate your total travel footprint, and I'll get back to how we do it in a few slides. Your total travel footprint from not only the hotel that you get from us, but also your flight, your transfers, restaurant visits, etc. And we will verifiably pay to remove that for you. So if you look at our client base, I think 3 out of 4 clients are what I would call professional service companies, so companies that are not producing goods, and as such have very little emissions, CO2 emissions in their scope 1 and 2. They don't emit a lot of CO2 because they're not producing goods. Architects, engineers, software companies, creative industries, all of those companies. Business travel, on the other hand, can account for up to 90% of the company's total footprint. We want to help those companies remove that carbon so their climate footprint looks completely different. We also have a lot of production companies. We also would love to work with many, many more, so don't get me wrong. But I can see from the data that it is especially professional service companies or office companies that are attracted to our service. So if you look at the fundamental offering, what do we offer to the world, to our clients? Well, on the surface, we have a hotel booking site at par with Expedia, Booking.com, Hotels.com. We offer around 1 million hotels. We have comparable rates with the major platforms, but the big difference is we spend our entire sales commission on calculating and removing our clients' emissions so they can travel net zero. You don't pay any extra for the hotels. You have the same rates and terms and conditions and everything else. What your net result is, you will have traveled net zero. So how do we do it? You're probably wondering. So first of all, we calculate your total emissions. Basically, we have 2 data points on you. One is your IP address. We know with some accuracy, plus minus 30 kilometers, where you're sitting in the world. So here's someone sitting in Copenhagen about to book a hotel in Berlin, for instance. So knowing those 2 data points, if we also knew your primary means of transportation, are you getting to Berlin with a flight in your car, or by car or train, train or bus, then we can accurately measure the amount of CO2 that will be emitted with your travel. So let me just go ahead, actually. Let me see if I can just show you how it works. So basically, let's say I'm going to Berlin, and I type in Berlin and a few dates, and I get some search results like I would on any other hotel booking platform. And I'll just go for the first hotel that pops up here. And I'll get a selection of room types. And I'll just pick the first room available here. And I'll go to checkout. So basically, on the checkout page, on any other hotel booking platform or travel management system, you just type in your name and email and get on with it. We ask of you to do the same, of course, but we also ask of you, how are you getting to the hotel? So you can just click here, I go by air, rail, bus, or car. So basically, what that means is we will calculate your total travel emissions from your transfers. We ask of you, how are you getting to the airport? And you can say, well, I'm going to the airport by bus or by car. I fly economy from Copenhagen to Berlin. And when I get to Berlin, I'm going to take a cab to the airport. I'm going to take one of those green taxi companies where I can choose either hybrid or electric. I stay at the hotel for a couple of days, and I have on average 3 meals a day. So all that together could potentially be 300 to 400 kilos. We will then remove that for you, so your net result is 0. So basically, talking about removals, there are 2 ways of removing carbon from the atmosphere. On one hand, you have the more technology-driven solutions. Many of you have probably heard about like carbon capture or direct air capture. We also looked into some of these projects. You see them like places like Switzerland, Iceland, and basically what they do is they literally suck CO2 out of the atmosphere and convert it into a solid material or gas and store it underground. We're continuously looking into these technologies as we improve, because we want to add new ways and more scalable, more cost-efficient ways of removing carbon from the atmosphere. At the moment, at least from our research, it's still an early technology. You can see it on a prototype kind of level. So the cost that we have found is that it's around $1,000 to remove 1 ton. So if you're flying from economy from Copenhagen to New York and back, you'll be emitting anywhere between 2 and 2.5 tons. You're not going to pay $2,000 to remove your emissions. So we had to look elsewhere. And if you look at what is being encouraged and suggested by EU and the UN, for that matter, is nature-based solutions. So nature-based solutions really covers many things. Hopefully, many of you have seen Kiss the Ground on Netflix, which is a documentary that dives into regenerative agriculture and farming and the opportunity of turning agriculture from a sector, an industry that emits a lot of CO2, into one that becomes a carbon sink, actually absorbing carbon into the soil. Personally, I'm enormously fascinated by it. My major concern is the lack of verification. I need to be able to get documentation that X amount of tons of CO2 has been absorbed, and my guarantee of permanence. So what happens if the next farmer comes and plows through this field, this area? What happens to the CO2 absorbed? So scalability, price, and verification has been some of the concerns that we've looked into, but it's a very interesting method for carbon removal. You have mineralization too. Check out a company like Green Sands from the Netherlands, where you basically dig up stones from typically 1 meter or 1.5 meters underground. And when those stones come into contact with the atmosphere, some sort of acidification begins when the stone comes in contact with the CO2 from the atmosphere. And on the surface of the stones, they kind of become greenish, hence the company Green Sands. So from our research, also very early technology has the opportunity to become quite scalable. So also something that we will look into. What we have chosen is to remove carbon by planting trees. So last year, I personally went through more than 100 different tree planting projects around the world to see which one would live up to our criteria in terms of integrity, verification, and documentation. And what we concluded was that we would only invest in projects that are verified by either gold standard or VCS. What that means is that someone comes out every 2-3 years, an independent verifying organization comes out. It could be Rainforest Alliance in North America, for instance. They come out and they, with using satellite images, drones, but also samples of in the soil or on the trees, they actually measure how much CO2 has been absorbed by this forest. The project that we have invested to become part of is a massive area in Latin America, in Uruguay, an area of more than 20,000 hectares of land, which is being developed from grasslands to forest. And in the course of 75 to 80 years, I believe, it's going to absorb actually 20 million tons of CO2. But since it's a VCS verified project, there are quite strict demands in terms of permanence, which basically means, now it becomes a bit nerdy, but basically means that there is always a buffer pool of 70%. So the project owner can only go out and sell 30% of the available credits or tons removed. So in this case, the project is set to be removing 7.5 million tons of CO2 in the course of its lifetime. So you have a business trip from Copenhagen to Berlin and back. We calculate that you'll be emitting 400 kilos. We will then go and pay to remove 300 to 400 kilos on your behalf through such a project. And we're adding many more as we go. So what it means that the project is verified by VCS is that it's part of Vera. You can check it out, vera.org, one of the largest registries for these verified projects. So what we do is, when we, at the end of the year, calculate your business footprint to be, let's say, 100 tons, we go and pay to remove 100 tons on your behalf. But we also register it with your name in Vera, which gives you total transparency as a business that Goodwings actually did what we promised. We can send you a link that takes you straight into the Vera database, and it will have a line that says Goodwings has removed 100 tons on behalf of, and then your company name. This is something that the clients that we've signed up in this first quarter have been immensely positive about, because in this growing arena of green solutions, what is most important is transparency, because transparency creates trust. So we're very happy that we managed to get a deal with Vera that we can actually go in and register the removal per company. So I'm coming to the end now. So basically, our new direction, our net zero travel service, what does it mean for a company? Well, it fundamentally means that we are ready to remove all your travel emissions and verify it. It means that you will get an annual net zero or CO2 certificate that we issue in your company's name that will say, well, your company has emitted 300 tons, but Goodwings has removed a similar amount, 300 tons, so your net result is zero. And you can use that in your sustainability or your climate reporting. You also get access to downloadable reports with all these data points. So you have the full data set behind the calculation, which is going to make your Scope 3 reporting a breeze, trust me. So all in all, you'll save time, you'll save quite a lot of money, because if you had to go and pay to remove 1 ton through such a project, you would, at the current market, pay around $15 to $25 per ton removed from a VCS verified reforestation project. So we just signed up a client that emits around 1,000 tons a year. So they would be paying roughly $20,000 every year to be able to travel net zero. They get that through us. So currently what we're doing is we are pinching our arm, because the world is still in a very weird state of lockdown. I'm sure in your country too. The travel sector is one of the sectors that are hit the hardest, but we're getting our optimism back. We can see that we're signing companies up, new ones, but we're also talking to our old clients, some of the ones that you see on this slide, and encouraging them to continue working with us and join our new net zero service. So I think it's very important for me, and pardon if it becomes a bit salish, but it's important for me that I convey to you the fundamental business model of Goodwings. We don't make money on selling hotels. We spend that money on calculating and verifiably removing our clients' travel emissions so they can travel net zero. And we believe in democratizing a new way of traveling. So that's why we have a starter, a free one, so all companies of all sizes can sign up and use our service without paying a dime. Luckily, most of the companies that do sign up actually choose one of the paid plans where they get access to some of these features. And this is what we live off. So basically, we've turned an industry that is dependent on transactional revenue selling hotels into a software as a service company, a climate as a service solution, you can say. And because this year is going to be a bit more depressing than what we had hoped, we've launched it with this campaign that we call Travel Back Better. So we encourage companies now, especially now because we have the time for the reflection and to do things differently. We're encouraging business leaders to think about how they will want to restart their business travel in the second half of this year when the world hopefully opens up again. And since nobody knows when we will be able to start traveling again, we went out with this offer where if you sign up in this first half, you get all of 21 for free, but you commit to traveling net zero with us in 22. So that basically concludes my presentation to you on our new direction. I think we have like 2 minutes left, so let me just end the session. I want to thank you all for allowing me to share our story, how we were hit, how we came together as a team, and how I think that we've managed to use Goodwings for something positive, and how we are coming through with a solution that seems to enable us to scale much faster, and thereby as a company, as a B Corp, to have an even bigger impact. So I have 2 wishes for you. 1, please do consider suggesting our net zero travel service for your workplace. I mean, you can start free, so why wouldn't you want us to remove your emissions? We're here, we're ready, and it's up to you. And secondly, we're spending almost nothing on ads. So what we rely on is word of mouth. So in your inbox right now is a post that I and my team would greatly appreciate if you would like, comment, or share on LinkedIn. That's all. Thank you again. Thank you so much for your time. Stay safe and take care.